actually generated.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
Well,
sorry.
That was a really loud announcement I got in my room. So I used Adobe Photoshop with some generative fill to modify some things in this picture. So like this person's hair got modified and Walt Disney's statue got taken away and changed the clock around, just some different things between the two pictures. Put a bird up in the sky, I think, took off the flag. So I don't know how many of those you found. Images will not be a main focus of what I'm doing today, but I did want to, in person, it makes for a nice little get to know you activity in terms of that. So it would help me as we get started here, if you can kind of, by the use of the reactions in the Zoom meeting, give me a little bit of an idea of your experience with generative AI. I'm guessing never heard of it, probably isn't applicable or you wouldn't be here, but I'm going to assume heard of it but don't know what it is, or have used it a little, maybe used it a lot. Trying to see if I can see reactions of anyone, because there's a reaction button within the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, there's definitely in the chat, people can hit the, in the chat, there's a little smiley face at the bottom. And if you push that smiley face, it brings up the emojis. You can find the one Kevin is going through, or type in just get the words like Jim did. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. So no one's used it a lot. I'm at that level. I've used it a lot. I do not consider myself an expert as I work with it. But this talk was built on the assumption that most of my audience either have never heard of it, but don't really know what it is, or have used it just a little. And we're going to look at ways we can use it in math teaching. Now, before we can talk about ways to use it, we're going to have to talk about a few other things first, just kind of what is it and some of the basic premises of AI. But certainly feel free to ask questions at any time. I don't know if I can monitor chat very well in terms of that.
I'll be monitoring the chat, Kevin. So if people put a question in the chat, and if I think it's worth stopping at that point, I'll let you know, or we can hold it for the end. I'll let you know. I'll take care of it.
Thank you. That'll work well for me. So I'm going to go through a variety of prompts and responses fairly quickly. Won't take time to read all the responses, but this PowerPoint and the chat responses similar to what I'm using here are available in this link. And I think I put that in the chat. And if you're just kind of curious what's there, it should take you to a folder like this that has the ICTM talk and the interface or ICTM prompt results. I didn't create a separate prompt results for this talk, but that's there because we're just going to go pretty quick through things. But the interface was a version I gave Saturday and Tuesday. So this was my third presentation, about 5 days with that. So this was the description that was put out there, and that's what I definitely plan to do, look at ChatGPT, ClaudeAI, and Google Gemini. So some things I plan to address. How do we use it in general? We use it with what's called prompts, a conversation back and forth with the AI. Prompt engineering is getting a little bit more elaborate with our prompts, a little bit more structure. In terms of that, it's not nearly as intimidating as it may sound with that. How I think math and science teachers might use it. I'm not really going to talk about science teachers. If you're interested and have science teachers that might be interested, the interface talk does have some science prompts in there. How I think students and parents might use it initially. There's a fairly well-founded concern that cheating could occur. Well, cheating can occur with any tool. AI can make it fairly easy to do. We may not get to this, but in the PowerPoint, there are numerous resources at the end about where you could learn more. But we're going to start with kind of, well, what is it? I will not be able to address that much about ethical concerns, biases, any concerns about plagiarism, acceptable use guidelines, how the models are trained and what specific differences in ClaudeAI and ChatGPT and Gemini are, or really how to implement AI within schools. I think those theoretical concerns are appropriate, but until you see just practical potential uses of AI in general, it doesn't make much sense to me to talk about those theoretical concerns. They're just too vague until we understand really what AI can do. And so we're going to look at a number of different things AI can do and see responses from AI with that. So I do have some links to some places that do address some of these. So first off, a disclaimer. The first prompts I put together are not as developed as the ones you'll see today. I encountered AI in my new job as a senior training specialist at Next Level Solutions and thought, man, this will help math teachers. And so I've been trying to get the word out to math teachers and other teachers about what it can do in terms of those different prompts. But just getting in and practicing, to me, is the best way to learn. Keep in mind, if you don't get the response you want at first, much like with a student, if they don't give the homework you want at first, it starts a discussion. Where did they not meet your expectations? What crucial bits of information about the assignment is it clear they didn't understand that you need to explain further? That's the same thing you're going to have to do with any of these chat programs. If the first result isn't what you want, explain more. Sometimes called prompt chaining. Now, I did have a bit of skepticism going in, and we'll see if I can successfully switch screens to where I want to be and successfully turn my sound on briefly. AI, give me an answer true. Am I crazy, thinking you have a clue? It won't be a stylish prompting, at least it gives me something. And I'll look sweet when I repeat all the things that you do. Now, AI didn't write that song. AI didn't write that song, but it can actually compose some parody songs. And it is composing the images we're seeing. Again, I'm not going to have a lot of time to do things with images, but putting text on images, it tends to fail and not do very well. I told it something about disclaimer, and that this is the wording it came up with. So we're going to look at 3 of the many chat programs out there. We're going to look at ChatGPT, ClaudeAI, and Google Gemini. And again, all these slides with the links are available in that Google Drive that I shared with you. All of these use some form of machine learning, which is essentially just kind of using statistical models to find patterns in existing very large data sets provided to them, and then make predictions to provide responses to the prompts given to them. And it's kind of making predictions a word at a time. So does a little bit more, does a little bit more, and we'll see that as we get in and start trying to ask some questions. So I've got a free account on each of these. You can get paid accounts, which gives you access to a little bit more functionality. All the free accounts have some limits on how many type questions you can ask in one setting. And when you reach that limit, ChatGPT drops you to a lower level. Some of the others just kick you out for 6-10 hours, and you can come back and ask more questions. A paid account also opens you up to being able to create what are called custom GPTs within ChatGPT. I think Gemini and Claude have something similar, but I haven't researched those. At my work, I've got a business account for ChatGPT. So I'll probably lean more to that direction just because that's one I know I can always go to and get responses from if I run out of free access on the others. But every time you prompt or ask it for something, you could also get different responses. So we're just going to kind of dive in. As long as you sign in with a Google account or some other email, they will keep the conversations, the copies of the conversations we have. So the first thing we're going to do is just, well, ask, how would you define yourself? So we're going to go into ChatGPT, and notice currently I'm not logged in at all, but I could still ask it that question. How would you define yourself? And we could send it, and it thinks, and it just starts putting it out here. So I'm a conversational partner here to help inform and inspire. I'm designed to, you can read that. Claude, I am signed in, and it says I've got the limited free plan. Prompt in and ask the same thing. So what I'm giving is what's called a prompt. I'm giving it a question or a request for some information. It provides it, and there's a conversation. Notice I could copy the results, the response with that, so it says, how it would define itself. And Gemini, I'm also signed in, and you can see other chats I've worked with. Ask it how it would define itself. I'm a large language model, also known as a conversational AI or chatbot, and it gives its response. Now, one thing about Gemini, show drafts, it actually produces 3 responses, not just 1. Now, if we kind of look, I guess there's a little bit of difference here. Trained to be as opposed I'm designed to. The first and the third start off very similar. Depending on the prompt, you might want to look at all 3 responses. Usually, the draft one it shows me is pretty good for what I'm interested in seeing. Now, I'm going to go back into ChatGPT and actually log in with my Google account, because I wanted to keep track of that and be able to start a new conversation. So if I ask it again, this response is probably a little different what I had before. A helpful, knowledgeable assistant. Oh, and I just closed something there. ChatGPT and Gemini do have Android apps. You can actually put them on your phone. There's an Android app, and the ChatGPT Android app, you can speak to it, the prompt, and it will speak back to you its answer. So instead of getting this answer that you have to read, it would read it to you. We'll have it read it aloud here in a little bit, some other response. One of the things I like to do with any of the chat programs, especially when you get the first response, is to, well, change this response so a 5-year-old would understand. Sometimes it just gives me a little bit better insight or different way of looking at things. And that is something that all of these programs can do. They can change the response level. So in terms of teaching, if you've got some students that aren't reading at grade level and your material's written at the grade level, well, you could run it through ChatGPT, because you can either by copying and pasting the information in here and just say, change it, or most of them you can actually attach a document, attach a file, and say, for this file, change the rating level to some other level, and it will do that. So just changing that response language quite a bit. So ChatGPT, I'm a friendly helper who knows a lot about many things. I'm here to answer questions, explain stuff, and help you figure things out, like a big book of answers that talks to you. I just want to make learning fun and easy. How would you describe yourself? Not sure that's an appropriate question to ask a 5-year-old at that point, but it does. And so Claude gives a little bit longer. I'm a special computer friend who knows a lot of things, made by some smart people to answer questions and do fun tasks. I can talk about all sorts of topics like animals, space, or even make up stories. And that make up stories is one of the things we're going to see, I think, is a bit contradictory at times as we think about generative AI, because one of the things we hear about is hallucinations. In fact, we'll ask AI about hallucinations here in a little bit, where it just kind of makes up stuff. And yet, some of the things we're asking it to take information and reprocess it in a totally new, creative way. And so in one hand, we really like the creativity of the AI. In another, we just don't want it to be too creative and make up things that don't actually exist. It says I always try to be nice and tell the truth. And Gemini gives the same type thing, even a shorter. I can tell you stories, help you learn new things, even play games with you. I'm like a really smart book that can talk back. Now, something to be interested in knowing is, well, how much information have you been trained on? So I'm going to ask that of all three. Again, how much information have they been trained on? In ChatGPT, since I ask it to respond to a 5-year-old, it still is. It has a memory. And so once I ask it to respond as a 5-year-old, to a 5-year-old, after that, it's going to keep doing it. So I've been trained on a huge amount of information, like a giant library full of books. So it's not terribly technical at that point because it's still explaining like it would to a 5-year-old. Claude, however, it doesn't keep talking to a 5-year-old. It has more vast amount. There's a cutoff date of April 2024. You can check the Anthropic website, so that gives a much more detailed response. Gemini is also still kind of responding like it would to a 5-year-old. So let's just go back to, say, ChatGPT and say, well, I'm going to ask it another question. Tell me about hallucinations. And you might notice as I've been doing this, I'm actually copying these prompts from my PowerPoint and pasting them here, and sometimes they're coming in as images. You can take a screenshot of some image. That could be the file you're attaching, or just paste it in here. It can evaluate, and you can ask questions based on that screenshot. So I'm going to say, tell me about hallucinations. I'm going to ask that of all three. Gemini starts telling me about hallucinations, just in general. Whereas Claude talks about hallucinations in the context of AI systems. ChatGPT in the context of AI hallucinations. So Gemini's answer was correct. That is a little bit of hallucinations. It's still talking to a 5-year-old, but it is talking about hallucinations, just not in artificial intelligence. So here's a place where I can read it and realize it didn't get everything about my question. So I need to expand on that question, rephrase it a different way. Ask, no, I meant in terms of AI, or can you tell me about hallucinations in artificial intelligence? We'll see if that'll read it. We won't ask that question. The other two do mention in the context of AI. Now I'm going to ask it, put this in the form of a poem. And you may have noticed a pop-up there, unable to upload the image. That's one of the free drawbacks. If you're uploading a lot of images, you can only upload a few. After a while, it says, you're done for a while. You can't upload anymore. At least it's still taking my text. So I want this to put it in the form of a poem. And it does it. And in fact, let me switch over and turn my sound back on. It will read it to us. So I have to switch my mic off to have it.
When AI speaks with words so bright, but something's wrong, though it sounds right, that's a hallucination, clear and true. A guess that's off, though it feels like it knew. In patterns deep, it makes a leap, but sometimes misses, though it seems steep. Like dreams we have that feel so real, AI does the same, though it's not ideal. So when you ask, I try my best, but if I slip, just give me the test. Together, we'll find the right way to go and learn from each other. That's how we grow.
Okay, hopefully I'm back. So it did that. Another sort of unusual thing it will do is we'll put this in the form of a song to the tune of, and I'm going to switch this up to the VeggieTales theme song. And we'll see if I can remember it and make it fit that. So let's see. If you ask me something cool and I give you a silly rule, that's a hallucination. I'll explain. I try my best, don't get me wrong. But sometimes I miss in my song. Oops, it's a hallucination. And then we go AI tales, making guesses that sometimes fail. AI tales, but we learn and keep the sale. Should have reviewed my AI or my VeggieTales theme song, but it did it, and it's got the idea, it's got the song, it's got the ideas of hallucinations in there. I just find that quite amazing, the things it can create when you want it to, and yet it will also create things like the hallucinations when you don't. One other thing we're going to ask it for. I'm going to keep on my VeggieTales theme. Write the original response on AI hallucinations in the form of a script in the style of VeggieTales. Our scene opens in a familiar VeggieTales kitchen where Bob the tomato and Larry the cucumber are talking to the audience. Hi, kids. Today we're going to talk about something really interesting that happens with AI. Larry interrupted, looks like hallucinations, but not the kind where you see a dancing cupcake on your desk, right, Bob? That's right, Larry. AI hallucinations are a little different. You see, sometimes when an AI like me or Larry answers questions, it can give answers that sound like they make sense, but they're not true at all. Exactly. That's called an AI hallucination. Wait. So the AI thinks it's right, but it's actually wrong? You got it, Larry. It's like when you guess something, but you don't know the answer for sure. Cut to Larry. Imagine himself trying to guess how many jelly beans are in a jar. The number on his guess is way too high, like 1,000,000. So it's kind of like when I try to guess how many jelly beans are in that jar, and I say 1,000,000 jelly beans, but there are only 50? Yep, you're guessing, but you're way off. AI does something similar sometimes. It's learned from a ton of information, but it doesn't know how to know the right answer, and it can guess wrong, like your jelly bean guess. Oh, I get it now. So when an AI gives a goofy answer, it's not being silly on purpose. It just made a mistake. Exactly. AI doesn't know everything, but it's trying to help based on the patterns it's learned. When those patterns don't line up, you get an AI hallucination. But Bob, what about people? Don't people hallucinate too? Well, yes, but in people, hallucinations are when they see or hear something that isn't really there. AI hallucinations are more about making mistakes when trying to guess an answer. Like the jelly bean jar again. Exactly. But don't worry, Larry. AI is learning and improving, just like we do. So the next time AI makes a jelly bean mistake, I'll just help it out and set things straight. That's the spirit. Remember, it's okay to make mistakes, and we can learn together. So kids, next time you ask an AI something and it gives a wacky answer, just remember that it's an AI hallucination. Hey, Bob, you want to guess how many jelly beans are in the jar now? Let's try a more reasonable guess this time. And the scene ends. And the credits roll with upbeat music as Bob and Larry continue to joke about jelly beans. So it's just amazing to me that the kind of things it puts in there for that. Next question I ask, well, what are some concerns people have about AI? and I'll ask that of Claude, job displacement, privacy and surveillance, bias and discrimination. I mean, AI is trained on documents that are out there that have bias and discrimination, and so it's going to pull from those biased documents and will still be there. Who's having control over them? Will AI make harmful decisions? What about misinformation manipulation, in terms of deepfakes or spreading misinformation at scale? Just a few large tech companies are developing powerful AI. Is that unhealthy competition? Who's making the ethical decisions about this? And how is that being programmed within the AI system? What's it going to do with human relationships? I'm going to guess in the classroom you already know some with, students on cell phones or other devices that you wonder, have they not talked with people, or they just only want to interact with the device? Well, that could happen even more here with AI. Or could there be security, some cyber attacks? What's really going on behind the scenes? Does anybody really know? Is anybody really willing to explain what's going on behind the scenes? So we can't really understand that. Is it going to increase economic inequality because those that have money can take advantage of the benefits of AI, and those that don't will get left farther behind because they can't take advantage of it? And is it going to make us over-reliant on technology, reducing human skills and autonomy? And I think for education, that's a big concern as well. In English class, if you've got a program, go to ChatGPT and ask it to write your paper, you didn't learn anything, and you're not learning how to write, you're not learning how to critically think with that, the students aren't. And so there's kind of that concern, how do we handle that? We'll even see in math, we can ask it a math question and ask for it to go through it step by step, and it will. Might not be right, but it will do that. And so we may need to instruct students how to appropriately use AI. Chances are they're using it much more than teachers are at this point in time. That's one reason I've kind of put this talk together, is because I think teachers need to have a sense of what's out there. Now, as you can see, there are lots of things that Gen AI knows, and will tell you, but there are lots of things it doesn't know as well. It doesn't know who you are in general. It doesn't know what you want. It doesn't know why you want it. It doesn't know how you want it. You want it in a table, in a bullet list, in a paragraph. It gave me the song when I asked for a song. It gave me the script, like a VeggieTales, when I asked it for that. So I had to specifically tell it, how exactly do I want that information? You're going to have to tell it. Now, you can try to tell it all at once or in a conversation. And that conversation, what's referred to as a prompt chain. If the first prompt doesn't give you the results you want, expand on that. Give it a little bit more information. Prompt it again and try to push it that way. At the end of that conversation, if you'd like, you could say, well, give me the prompt that would have given me all those results in the first place. So ChatGPT, all the Gen AIs will in fact write prompts for you if you ask, and kind of know what you want to ask, how you want to ask the question of, I need a prompt to do something, give me some ideas. Now, I said it doesn't know who you are. If you sign in, ChatGPT at least does have the option here to customize ChatGPT. And you can give it some custom instructions, like how would you like it, what would you like it to know about you? And you've got 1,500 characters you can put in there. I'm using about a third of that to tell it what I want. And notice one of the things I wanted to do, I'm teaching a class called Math Technologies, looking at how interactive technologies like the graphing calculator, GeoGebra, Desmos can help in understanding and reviewing concepts from calculus and high school geometry. And also some data concepts I'm going to be working with. So I want it to create lab activities. I can also get information on how I would like it to respond. And this one I definitely haven't used anywhere near the 1,500 characters I'm allowed, just in terms of how I want it to respond. Do I want it long or short? How is it supposed to address me? Should it have opinions on topics or remain neutral? So for my work account, I have some different custom instructions than I have here, but you can customize those instructions. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Well, I said I'm going to skip ahead. So the term prompt engineering you may have heard. Some people like to call it prompt design because engineering just sounds a bit too intimidating. But it's essentially writing prompts according to a pattern, just to add in more context. There are lots of patterns out there. You could just do a search for prompt design patterns or prompt patterns. Tell a role, tell the goal, what kind of restrictions, what kind of format do you want? Or what are the characters in this discussion? What's the context? What's the limitation? What exactly do you want output? What's the style? Microsoft has a whole one-pager of some prompt engineering ideas. You can do a search for a ChatGPT cheat sheet. Here's another one. Tell it a role, give it your main objective, your desired results, the tone you want to use, any additional context. And if it still doesn't give you what you want, you can refine from there. Or here's a cheat sheet I found. Someone posted on LinkedIn with all kinds of prompt frameworks. Act as a role, create a task, show as format, the RTF framework. I don't know who decided this should be the BAB framework of explain the problem before, state the goal, task, ask for the output, format. I don't know where BAB comes in there, but a number of things that could be done just to help structure those prompts. So again, I think of it as a student teacher or an intern. They know a lot about the theory of education, but they need specifics. What exactly do you want them to do? What grade level are you at? What topic? What kind of activities? What classroom management challenges might they experience? It does remember within the context of each conversation, but when you start a new conversation, it's back to the original blank slate. Or you could think of it as a student. They're not understanding the assignment yet, and you have to explain a little bit more to them. So here's one that I ask, and in fact, for this one, ChatGPT, I'm going to start a new chat. In fact, on all of them, I'm going to start a new chat. I'll let that one start working. In Claude, the new chat is when you click here, start a new chat. And in Gemini, it is up here to start a new chat. So you kind of explain what you're interested in. Give me some ideas. And so it gives some ideas for prompt engineering to talk about clarity and specific. The structure, follow a logical order. Tell it what role it's doing. How exactly do you want it? Do you want specific focused answered or creative diverse responses? Be willing to experiment and adjust. Be aware of biases. Notice down here it does say Gemini may display inaccurate info. ChatGPT also can make mistakes. Claude can make mistakes. Please double check. Also notice here in Claude, if we look, it says 3 messages remaining until midnight. So when I use my messages, I'm kicked off for about 4.5 more hours. So I can do that. But again, just some ideas on how you can begin to interact and work with it. So let's even get more specific. Let's say I'm a 3rd grade math teacher and you could change the grade. What are some of the ways you can help me support me in my work? And so it gives some ideas in terms of lesson planning, creative math games, differentiating instruction, generating worksheets, give you ideas about interactive activities if you're integrating technology. I can make some story problems. I can help with assessments. I can create parent resources. I can design some visual aids like charts or diagrams. Actually, since it says that, let's try something here. Give me a diagram illustrating the addition of 1/2 and 1/3 and why a common denominator is important. And let's just see what it does. That may or may not be a 3rd grade math topic, I don't know, but so it kind of goes through step 1. You've got 2 different denominators. So it's not giving me a diagram. It's explaining the process. Oh, now it's going to create a diagram. Let me create a visual diagram to illustrate this. So ChatGPT will create diagrams. It's using, I believe, DALL-E behind the scenes to create those. Creating diagrams take longer. And so we've got here a diagram. Yeah, I don't really think I can use this diagram. No, I don't really see anything about that. Oh, I just gives me shivers that where in the world it came up with that particular diagram as it was trying. I mean, because there's typos. That's not 1/2. I don't see a 3rd. 1/3. Yeah. All right, so it didn't do that. So that didn't work so well. But say you were a kindergarten teacher. Create a coloring page of common geometric shapes. Let's see how it does that. If it'll give us triangles, squares, rectangles, some of those in a coloring page format. Well, it does with some smiles and different things. And so I've not tried like with the smiles, but it does create something that I could see that designed for kindergarten. They're easy coloring. They have playful faces to make it engaging. Feel free to print it out for your classes. So let me go say give me fewer shapes without the playful faces. So if at first it doesn't give you what you want, explain what you do want. And that works even with the images. So, well, they don't all have playful faces. I do have fewer shapes. I mean, that I could see doing some coloring on and just see what students might create from that. All right, I'm going to do, and notice it says now I've reached my limit on image creation. I guess, 3 was my limit on image creation with the free plan. Or I can try again, 24 hours later on images. I'm going to start a new chat and say, well, suppose I'm a 7th grade teacher just starting to work. Give me some ideas on prompts I could use that give me a wide range of the use cases. So it's like, well, here is a specific prompt, generate a step-by-step solution. Explain each step clearly for the student who may be struggling. Create a word problem with a real-life example and provide the solution with a detailed explanation of the process. Explain the concept of racial proportion in a way a 7th grader can easily understand. Include examples and visuals that can be used in a classroom presentation. Design a simple math game. Generate a short quiz. So let's just try this one out. It gives the prompt. In fact, I don't even have to copy it. Say, I'll just say do prompt 2. And it uses the prompt 2. So here's a word problem that involves calculating the area of a triangle along with a detailed solution. And so there's the problem. Here's the detailed solution. Now, might it be wrong? Yes, it might. So you definitely have to read it and make sure. It gives a visual aid. I don't think it'll create it. It might have created it had I not exceeded my limit of creation of images here with that. Let's ask it another question. Assume the role of an experienced prompt engineer with over 20 years of experience, which of course nobody has. I'm a 2nd grade math teacher working on lesson plans for the year with the goal of having more hands-on activities. Again, it's just, I'm not quite sure what to ask, how to prompt it. So give me 10 ideas on prompts. It'll help me be more productive. So a prompt about an interactive math game, a prompt about a real life scenario, a prompt about creating some sort of craft project, a story problem using manipulatives, a prompt about some group activity, a prompt about a math center, a prompt about assessment, a prompt for integrating technology, a prompt for family involvement, some reflective practices. Now, if you know more specifically what you're interested in, you can even ask it something very specific. And I'm going to do that. I'm not prepared for my class tomorrow night, so I'm going to see what it's going to do. I want to do a lab over measures of data using interactive software like GeoGebra or CodeApp. Give me a lab with explanations, I guess explained steps for the students, and 10 questions for them to respond to. And let's just see what it's going to do. And so it generates. We're going to guide through exploring measures of central tendency, the mean, median, and mode, and variability. Gives the objective, gives what I'm going to need. Sample data sets. You can use data sets. Students create their own. Or I could ask ChatGPT to create a data set for me. And worksheets for that. So briefly explain these concepts. They're going to enter the data, calculate it. It would be nice if it said a little bit more about use the software's tools to explain what those tools are. And then it has the questions. Create a histogram or box plot. I was actually planning a second lab on visualization after their fall break next week. But it's a pretty good start, and I can look at it and decide where it's lacking, what I really want to have it do different than what it did. Another thing I've done, on the paid plan, you can create a custom GPT, give it more extensive instructions, but I think even on the free plan, you can do some of that. Say, let's do a review of fraction or shapes, types of shapes. So create a learning game like Family Feud using mathematical shapes that a 7th grader should know. And so here are the materials needed, the game structure. Okay. So I'm going to say, don't show me the answers, let me provide them as students suggest them. So we've got, well, it's not actually a Family Feud game, but it's, name a 2D shape with 4 sides. So let's see, 1, parallelogram. Great choice, that's a solid answer. So it actually is sort of a Family Feud because there are other shapes with 4 sides. And you can keep track of how many, based on how many students you think might have the same answer when it's their turn. So with a custom GPT, you can kind of give it all the instructions in one place and modify it easier. But even without a paid version, you can play around and get kind of a game that works and then just say, give me one prompt that would do this for me. You could save that prompt somewhere and then use it later and pick a different topic or pick a different game. I would suggest not trying Wheel of Fortune. ChatGPT struggles mightily with letters. One of the more famous one is how many letter R are in strawberry? Oh, and it actually is correct now. It got 3. Normally when I ask it, it's told me there are 2. It just doesn't count them very well. And that's where hallucinations come into play. So with that, there are lots of other prompts I could do here, but I guess I'd kind of like to know if we've had questions coming in via chat, just to see if there's anything I can try to address here while we've got some time.
Not in the chat, but if anyone would like to unmute and ask a question you've been holding or put it in the chat, you're more than welcome to. Now, serious, Kevin, I mean, I've seen some people start using it for trying to make practice sets for kids or some good kind of, worksheets or activities. I guess, can you show us, like, say you wanted to do a practice set on a math topic, just like how good is it at making mathematical symbols and
okay.
Yeah, just being kind of more of the math type, like is it good with being able to write good math type when
Okay.
you do like quadratic formula, anything, or
So I need a review sheet for Algebra 1 class on linear equations. So I guess there's a review sheet that doesn't have some, well, there's a practice problem. Yeah. So let me just follow it up, say generate 10 similar practice problems.
you said that get progressively harder. I'm just curious, like.
Oh. And so it does give problems, yeah. Make those problems.
Right, and I can see that this is where the refinement goes in, because it's, when we said linear equations, it depends on what we want. Like right now, it's giving a lot of graphing linear functions versus solving linear equations. This depends, I guess, what we'd like and what we're asking for. Yeah. Someone in the chat is asking, do you have any suggestions for how you might use it for differentiated instruction? For like what that might look like as a teacher to get suggestions.
Okay. Let's see. What's a good 8th grade math topic that maybe some students struggle with? Anybody? I've
Oh yeah, we
not
got
a,
we got some middle school teachers out there in the chat. Give us an 8th grade topic that your students tend to struggle with sometimes. 7th or 8th grade teachers out there, just a 7th or 8th grade math topic. I know we had some out there that work in that realm. So systems of equations, Nikki says. Yeah.
okay.
Oh, and Melanie was asking for differentiated instruction, even just by level of a problem. For example, she's saying, like, could you give a mild, medium, and spicy problem for percent change?
Okay.
Like, so, give me a mild, medium, and spicy problem set. Spicy problem set for percent change. We'll see what it does, and then we can. And Melanie, you can help us revise it to see what you were looking for.
I'm going to say put it in a table so that we can kind of compare it. I think that'll be easier to kind of compare if we put it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, that you can do that.
And let's see if it does that. So mild, medium, spicy. Well, that wasn't really what I wanted, but I mean that's one problem. It's not a set.
Yeah, you can say maybe give 3 of each or something. Like give me 3 of each and put them in column. I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
5 problem.
Put the.
So Melanie says, yeah, 3 of each would be good. Something where you get like 3 of each, maybe.
Yeah. We'll see. So give me a set of 5. Well, it still didn't get mild, medium, spicy, but mild, medium, spicy. So mild, medium, medium, spicy. Well, 5, it didn't.
But they can do what you asked it to. It gave you 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted a set of 5 problems. So let's see. Let me start over and see if I can ask it better. So give me a table with columns mild, medium, and spicy for the difficulty level of problems.
Can you create 3 of each?
5 rows of percent problems.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Let's
see what that does.
See what that does.
Okay. Yeah, let's see.
Well, it gave me 5 meal time.
Yeah. May struggle to have the screen space to do 3 columns, but it did give 5 of each by level. The question is now, Melanie, I'm wondering, like, as a teacher, Melanie, if you look at it, do you think these are mild, medium, spicy? Like, if you kind of let the audience, if you take math teachers out there, if you look at it, do you think, as you look at it, does it seem like, that it is differentiating the level? Definitely seems to be. Melanie says it looks like a good start. Yeah.
Well, that I would say I would use it for ideation and get ideas. You're going to have to modify it, but yes, it's a good start, and yeah, you can modify with that. I mean, even say creating subplans.
Yeah,
I need.
And then, like, Kevin, with this here, could you say like, please make a teacher answer key for that?
So we'll go back, which is why it's nice to have them saved.
Yeah.
I went to a new chat, but I can go back to that one. So yeah. I'm going to go one step further. Make a teacher answer key and suggest partial credit. If the problems are worth 5 points each. And we'll just see. We'll suggest some partial credit with that. So mild, the answer, 2 points for calculating the 10%.
2 points for calculating 10%, 50. Yeah, I really get that.
recognizing the 10% is 0.10 or something. Yeah. Yeah, the partial credit it's not
right. It's tough because there's
great,
so
I
many
think,
options
but
of partial credit. But we do have a teacher answer key. I was curious about the answer key, so I kept it in the same format. And just as a teacher, you have the answer key there. And
yeah, I mean, actually, I'm going to ask for the problem set, provide a student solution page where the solutions are explained step by step.
oh, interesting. And I know we're right about 8 o'clock. So after this one, we'll have to wrap it up. This is interesting. Okay, so
convert it to a percent, multiply it by 50, you get the answer. Find 10%, subtract the discount, convert it to a decimal, multiply.
Interesting, because if you were doing this, Kevin, I'm just thinking as a teacher, like, as far as students having self-learning, like if you had a differentiated problem set like this and you wanted kids to have access to more than just the answers after you're done or at home or other things, it definitely gives a good, at least starting place here for students to be able to reference, a procedure by which to follow.
On the flip side, if you gave them a set like this, they could scan it in, they could give it to ChatGPT and say, walk me through the solutions of these step by step.
Oh, okay.
You have something very similar to that, and
right.
they could just copy down the answer. And that's where the cheating concern comes in.
Sure.
Of who's doing the work?
Right. Well, homework, the goal is just learning. So if they're using it as a good tool to learn, we're good. Yeah. But we'll see. It says it didn't choose the most efficient procedure. Melanie says, yeah, interesting. So it wasn't the most efficient procedure. Well, I know it's 8 o'clock, everyone. And so, Kevin, this has been really helpful. It's been great. I think a lot of us are newbies at this. And so just getting to watch you play around and refine the prompts and just starting to see some ideas for how to start, further exploring are really helpful. We thank you very much for your time. I reposted Kevin's Google Drive here in the chat so that there's more things. There's links in there for more places to learn. Kevin, I saw some really good links to explore Kevin's PowerPoint. There's a lot more good things in there to go through. People are saying it was cool to see, Kevin. Thank you. And I also want to say, if you were looking for that PD credit for ICTM, I put that in the chat as well, but make sure you check out with the form. If that was you, if you were getting the PD credit for tonight, just make sure that is there. I'll put that back in the chat one more time. But how about a little round of applause for Kevin, Dr. Kevin Hopkins. Kevin, that was really interesting. We appreciate it very much. Yeah, and for your time. And all the teachers out there and educators, we thank you very much for being part of our ICTM community and for working in Illinois to help improve math education. So hopefully we'll connect in some other ways soon. But thank you, everyone, for what you do. And go get some rest. You're probably tired. Go rest. Thanks, everyone. And Kevin, it was great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.